Can you hear me back there? after this meeting, okay? All right. Mario?
Yes, sir.
Special City Council meeting for the first budget hearing agenda. It's September 10th. It's approximately 5:05 p.m. Does the clerk please call the roll?
Councilwoman Baskin. Councilman Leon. Here. Councilwoman Powell.
Here.
Councilwoman Julian.
Here.
Councilman Stevens. Here. Vice Mayor Wilson. Here. Mayor Harris.
I'm present.
You have quorum.
Please stand for the invocation of the pledge of allegiance.
God, our Father, we thank you for your grace. We thank you for your mercy. In this moment, we pray now, God, for your knowledge, your wisdom, and your understanding as my colleagues and I prepare to discuss business that ultimately affect your people. Father, we pray that you continue to bless this great city that we call home, bless its residents, stakeholders, everyone that has something to do with the city of Miami Gardens. All these things, yes, in your Sunday, I do pray. Amen.
Amen. For our new members, you guys know how to work these. Microphone, you gotta push the button. Yeah. All right, so this is the first two public hearings for the adoption of the operating millage rate, the VECO debt service millage rate, and the budget for the City of Miami Gardens for fiscal year 2024-2025. Mr. Clerk, please read the title of the millage resolution.
Item 4, resolutions, public hearings. Item 4.1, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Miami Gardens, Florida, adopting a proposed millage rate at a public hearing to be levied for the fiscal year commencing October 1, 2024 through September 30, 2025 for operating purposes, establishing a rollback rate, establishing a debt millage rate approved by the electorate, setting a date and time for a final public hearing to adopt the final millage rate, providing for directions to the city clerk, and providing for an effective date, and this is sponsored by the city manager.
The proposed millage rate for the city for fiscal year 2024-2025 is 6.936, which is 10.06% over the rollback rate, and the voted debt mid-service millage rate is 0.4762. The aggregate millage rate for fiscal year 2024-2025 is 7.4125. Mr. Manager.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members, I just want to say a brief, couple of brief statements, and then I'll ask the Deputy City Manager to do a brief presentation. I do want to take this opportunity, Mayor and Council members, to first welcome Councilwoman Baskin and Councilwoman Powell to the dais. I look forward to working with you over the next several years regarding budgetary preparation. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the Finance and Budget staff. If they would please stand under the direction of Mirtha Disick and recognize them for all their hard work. I also want to recognize the department heads who have participated in the development of the budget this year. Thank them for each and everything that they've done to be able to bring forward a recommended budget to the mayor and council regarding services for the city of Miami Gardens. And finally, I want to take this opportunity to thank Deputy City Manager Craig Clay for his leadership during this process. And with that, Mayor, council members, I'd like to call on Mr. Clay to do a brief presentation regarding fiscal year 2025 budget.
Mr. Clay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, Craig Clay, Deputy City Manager. What I'll do this evening is briefly go back over some of the things that we talked about at our July workshop, and then brief you on the things that we were waiting on. You know, as usual, we are waiting on a few numbers, both on the revenue side and on the expense side. Those numbers have come in, and we're certainly ready to move forward with where we are. Our change in taxable value, fiscal year 25 versus fiscal year 2024. Total taxable value in fiscal year 2025, approximately $8.8 billion. The change from fiscal year 2024 is about $862 million. That is spread in three places: new construction, a little over $102 million, growth in our existing tax base, $683 million. Our millage rate, as Mayor Harris mentioned in the millage rate resolution, our operating millage is 6.9363 mils. Debt service millage rate, 0.4762 mils, for a combined millage rate of 7.4125 mils. This is the 12th consecutive year that our millage rate has been able to stay flat at 6.9363 mils. Our total millage rate over the last 10 years has been reduced by 0.7636 mils, mostly because of the growth in our existing tax base and because of new construction. This is a graphical depiction of what we just showed. Those orange lines, you can see that the value of the city has grown exponentially from 2015 to now in 2025. 2025, our tax base was around $3.5 billion. Today, it's $8.8 billion approximately. What you want to see is those orange lines to continue to increase year after year, and you want to see that blue, green, the line, you want to see that continue to go in the direction that it's going. When we came before you in July, there were a few revenue sources that were still yet to be determined. Those involved state revenue sharing, half-cent sales tax, municipal revenue sharing, and communications tax. This year, we experienced about a 3% increase in those lines from fiscal year 2024. That is about what we expected to happen. Did not cause us to make any major changes in our estimates once those numbers came in. Our operating expenses, as we talked about in July, this budget does include increased funding for various expenses, fuel and utilities. You may have noted that over the last couple of weeks, gas prices have come down. So hopefully it continues to trend that way, and we will be able to maintain where we are in terms of fuel spending. Pension costs this year, rates increased on average 0.37%. That was a very good thing, as last year you may remember that our average was around 7 or 8% for our various pension funds. City events, preliminary budget does include funding for all of our city signature events. On the expense side, we were waiting on what would be the insurance and all of our other lines of insurance. Our health insurance premiums will increase. They increased about 18% across the board. A lot of that was due, or all of it is really due to something called a medical loss ratio. And what that insurance company is collecting versus what they are spending. That number should be around 80%. For us this year, that number is around 117%. And so that 18% increase signifies that medical loss ratio. Property, liability, workers' comp, and auto insurance. Last year, you may remember that we experienced a 172% increase in those premiums from 2023 to 2024. This year, although there was an increase, that increase was around 8%. So certainly better than what we experienced last year. Certainly, we hope it continues to be that way. September 25th will be our final budget hearing, 5:01 p.m., same time, same place on September the 25th. Thank you, Mayor. We'll answer any questions that you have this time.
Thank you, Mr. Clay. Public comments on this millage rate is open at this time. Mr. Clerk, did you receive any written communication?
Mr. Mayor and Council, no, I have not received any written communication on the millage.
Are there any public comment cards in reference to the millage rate? Showing none, public comments are now closed. I need a motion to adopt the proposed millage rate and the voted debt service millage rate.
Motion.
Been moved and seconded. Are there any discussion from the council?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Are we just speaking, is this just reference
Just
to
on the
millage rate?
On the millage rate, that's it. Okay. Any discussion from?
No.
Showing none, I need a motion to defer the millage rate until after discussion on the budget.
Motion, second?
Been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Showing none, show it deferred until we have a discussion on the budget. Mr. Clerk, read the title of the budget ordinance, please.
Item 5, ordinance is on for first reading and public hearing. Item 5.1, an ordinance of the City Council, City of Miami Gardens, Florida, approving and adopting the city's budget for the 2024-2025 fiscal year, providing for expenditure of funds, authorize the city manager to take certain actions, providing for carryover of funds, providing for interfund transfers, providing for automatic amendments, providing for adoption or revocation, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing a severability clause, providing for an effective date, and this is sponsored by the city manager.
Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, I don't have any changes from what Mr. Clay just presented. The recommended millage rate is 6.9363, along with the 0.4762 millage rate for debt service, for a total of 7.4125 combined total. That is staff's recommendation, Mayor.
Public comments on the budget is now open. Mr. Clerk, did you receive any written communication in reference to the budget?
Mr. Mayor, Council, no, I have not received any written communication concerning the budget.
Are there any public comments on this item right now? Showing none, show public comments closed. I need a motion to adopt the proposed budget for 2024-25.
Motion.
Been moved and seconded. It's open for a discussion from the council. Any issues, concerns?
I just want to thank the finance department, deputy city manager. We had a very successful meeting, and they addressed my concerns that I didn't have. Thank you for that.
I too would echo the same. There are a couple of outstanding documents that we have. I just want to make sure that I get those before the next budget hearing. And I commend the team for your efforts and your hard work in pulling out such a voluminous document with great details. And let's just make sure I get my stuff. Deal? All right.
Any other concerns?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just curious as it relates to the outstanding documents that the Vice Mayor mentioned, because I'm sure I would like to see them as well. So let me get a copy as well. But I wanted to.
I'd like to. Yeah. I'd like a copy of your documents as well.
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay.
I wanted to, first, as my colleagues mentioned, I wanted to commend our finance team and everyone that's worked diligently to put together this proposed budget as we haze into the new fiscal year here in the city of Miami Gardens. You all know how I feel about infrastructure and improving. I had a meeting with our city manager and deputy city manager, and we talked about some of the improvement projects that are already slated in the new budget. I guess for point of clarity, the projects that was not completed that we outlined in 2023, 2024 budget, would that roll over and we would continue with those funds? How would that work?
Yes, sir. When we do a capital budget for most of those infrastructure projects, we look at those in a 5-year time frame. So when we put our capital budget together, we're looking at projects that we think we may do in a 5-year time frame. So those ones that we talked about last, remember the big board? So those projects that were not completed will continue. And then the other ones that we talked about total about $32 million worth of infrastructure projects that we'll work on in this fiscal year.
And just for clarification purposes, and more so for just to make it simplistic for the residents and those who are listening, those infrastructure projects include, but not limited to, sidewalks improvements, potholes fixings, and, can we just specify a little bit more on that for me?
Sure. Transportation projects, primarily road improvements, like you mentioned, stormwater projects. The road improvements would include the sidewalks that you mentioned. Stormwater projects would include drainage projects that would try to alleviate some of the flooding in certain areas and seawall problems that we have in other areas. Those are the main projects that are related to the $30+ million that we would be spending over the course of the year.
Thank you. The other thing I wanted to make sure that I don't know if this is possible given the dollars that we use to provide assistance, and that's through the community development area. I know we use a lot of SHIP dollars and grant dollars to improve. Has there been any increase to those dollars to service more residents? If so, can you speak on that for me, please?
Sure. The CDBG is formally driven, so primarily we'll get a little bit over $1 million per year. And it's been pretty stable since we have been a participating jurisdiction back in 2006. On SHIP, it varies significantly from year to year. There have been some years when we have gotten about 80 to 90,000. When the budget first came out, the state budget first came out this year, we thought we would get somewhere around 800,000+. That number was reduced after the governor's vetoes to 554,000. So we still have a pretty good amount of money to do that. We have 19 projects related to weatherization and beautification that you mentioned, and 5 projects that are being reviewed right now. So 19 projects in process, another 5 that are being reviewed.
Here's my concern, and I thank you for that. Here's what I want to see if we can explore. I know with the CBG funds, the SHIP dollars, that there is an extensive amount of information that is requested from the federal government, the state, before we can award the projects and assist the seniors or residents who are qualified for that. Mm-hmm. Is there an additional pool of funding that does not require as much from the residents that we can potentially create a program utilizing those dollars out of that department? So for an example, how we get community benefit dollars from the Formula One project. Mm-hmm. I do know that there is a capital reserve portion of it. Can we identify elsewhere in the budget that we can have more like backup dollars for mm-hmm. individuals who needs assistance, right? Because I know personally a resident who has been going through the process for a year mm-hmm. and have not got, every time they submit documents according to the state statute or according to the federal guidelines, it's outdated, and you go back and you get it and it's outdated in X, Y, and Z. So it's not that they don't have the required information. It's just that the time that we're requesting it. So I would like to see if we can explore other avenues on how we can provide assistance for residents in that situation.
Is it for home improvements or
across the board? Mostly is home improvement.
Okay.
So seniors who are, seeking for assistance with impact windows and roof repairs and things of that nature that's eligible according to the guidelines.
Okay.
Is what I'm referencing.
All right. Go ahead, Mr. Clay. I'm
sorry.
No, I noted what you said, Councilman. I think you're right on there. I think the community benefit fund would be, that allocation that we set aside would probably be the best place to explore that.
And I also want, and then this may be something for my colleagues. I want to suggest that we work to streamline, because I know throughout the fiscal year, a lot of members of the community come to us for home improvement projects. So I'd like for us to essentially explore maybe streamlining when it comes down to it, because we have a department that's focusing on those areas versus donating the funding to the non-for-profits that say they're doing it within the community. So not support the initiative, but find a more streamlined process when it comes down to those dollars.
And that's something that we could sit down and discuss too. And I agree with you on that. We have already talked about something similar to that when we first talked about the Formula One funding.
Yes, sir.
So we'll definitely sit down and talk about that some more.
Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I do want to say this, and it's a huge concern that came up in my meeting last night. We need to be very, very careful when we ask seniors to go online.
Agreed.
They cannot, and some, they can't do it. And I think we also have to be very careful about the volume of information that we are requesting from them in order to just replace a window. And I think there needs to be a cap on the time. So from the time of application until the award, if it needs to be 90 days and probably no more, because that process has left a lot of them traumatized.
Yes.
Vice Mayor, if I may,
Ma'am?
I think what the solution that Councilman Stevens is talking about would alleviate a lot of that. The information that we ask for is predicated on the funding source. So the state or the federal government requires us to have that in order for us to be in compliance and to continue to receive those funds. If we were to do it outside of those programs, we certainly would be able to create requirements like you're mentioning that would be local requirements in order to do those types of things.
May I
And
ask
that's
a
part
question?
of the streamlining. So, go ahead, Councilman.
Yes. As we, I guess, propose to get together to have a more concise, streamlined plan that you're proposing, outside of what the government requires, if possible, we have earmarked someone to assist or in the whole process so that they can have an assistance if they need help for the utilizing the computers and the technology, because we probably won't be able to get around the documentation going on the internet, but we may be able to provide assistance with utilizing the equipment.
Yes.
As we talk about it. So if we can plan for that planning time where we all can participate.
Yes, we have done something different in that area. We have staff now that understand what it is they need to do. If that means inviting them in, sitting with them in the community room and getting them to go through their documentation, we do that. We did have some hiccups there, as noted by the Vice Mayor and as noted by Councilman Stevens, that we have since corrected, we believe.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Craig, for that. I just want to make sure that we make to Dr. Powell's point that what we do moving forward, that the budget addresses that, right? So the areas, and I trust you all's management, I trust you all's leadership to identify how we can improve those services. But that's one dear to my heart, and I just want to make sure that when we move into this next budget year, that it's addressed properly. You know what I mean? And we're finding ways to really provide assistance to the one of the most vulnerable population of our city, and that's our seniors.
Yes, sir.
The other thing is, and I think I'll be done. I think is can you just highlight briefly what our public safety measures look like in this budget? I know we've made some investments to improve technology and just the overall equipment and security for the city. Can you highlight a few of those things for me, please, that the budget addresses?
Yes, sir. So as we've committed to over the last several years, we've committed to making major investments into our public safety. A lot of our bond projects includes a technology component where we have added cameras to all of those that go back into our real investment. So a lot of the trailers that you see on the road, those are actually also license plate readers. Shots, the mileage in it, and we continue to hire police officers. We continue to do those things, and all of that is reflected in this budget.
Has it increased, the numbers increased from the previous budget cycle?
The police budget totals about $50 million, which is an increase from the 45 it was last year.
Sounds good. Thank you. I have no more questions.
Any other discussion from the council?
I just want to add this in there. I think that maybe there needs to be a function of our budget that those social programs like for the for the seniors, that maybe every quarter we should get a report on who's received what. Monitor year round and get to the end and say we did or we did not. So that way, even if it's semi-annual, so in midway of the fiscal year, we get a report of the number of applicants, the number awarded, the number denied, and how much money was awarded. Because I think that gets to be important for public purposes. Okay.
And included as a separate document.
That's appreciated. Thank you.
All right. No more discussion from the dais. I need a motion to defer the budget ordinance until after approval of the millage item.
Motion. Second.
Been moved. I need a motion to recall the millage rate resolution.
Motion.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor of the millage rate resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Showing none. Show the millage rate resolution not passed, but it's passed.
Yeah, no, it's approved. It's
It's
passed.
approved. Okay. All right. Now I need a motion to recall the budget ordinance.
Motion.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Now, we did a motion.
It's
Need a
our
vote.
roll call, Mayor.
Roll call.
It's a voice vote on the recall. Sorry.
All right. So we go ahead. Need a voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Showing none. Show the vote for the proposed budget ordinance.
No. The motion to recall the budget ordinance.
I thought we just did that.
Now we're
We're voting on the budget ordinance. Okay.
Councilwoman Julian.
Yes.
Councilman Stevens.
I vote yes.
Councilman Leon.
Yes.
Councilwoman Powell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Baskin.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
Mayor Harris.
I vote yes.
Motion passes 7-0. There are no more items on this special meeting agenda.
All right. The next public hearing will be held on September 25th, and at that time, we'll consider the final millage rate and budget for fiscal year 2024-2025. Before I adjourn this meeting, Mr. Manager, finance staff, great job on this budget, just like you guys do every year. We appreciate all the hard work the entire city staff does, and we look forward to this upcoming year and making it a very positive one. I need a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Motion.
Been moved and seconded. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
When you fly out? Morning, what time? Yeah?
That's when I fly out. On Thursday.
You good?
I touched down at. I think.
9:57.
Sam.
No, I fly out of Miami.
Are you going to